Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For this tutorial, I'm going to do something similar as I did 2 weeks ago, where I'm going to show you how I did a cake that was actually for an order at the bakery. So these are more practical uses of some of the techniques that I have shown you in the past. In this design, I used some edible images, painting, hand painting, and a brick technique, how I colored all that brick. First of all, we're going to go ahead and use our edible images. These were just printed off the internet. My boss printed them off, and I'm going to put them on fondant. I like to back my edible images on fondant. If they're going to be sticking up, I will add some Tylose to my fondant or use gum paste so that they dry more firm, so that they're not going to get soft on you. Fondant sometimes can get a little soft, especially in humid atmospheres, but now in the fall it's not so much of an issue. But still, just if you're going to have them as a topper, go ahead and add some Tylose to your fondant or use gum paste. Now I'm just cutting off everything that's around this, what do you call this? Graffiti. Duh, it's graffiti. And because I'm going to use petal dust to actually some color dust to do that on the topper itself. So I just cut everything off except for the fondant, and I'm just attaching them to my gum paste. I think I just used gum paste on this. This was a few weeks ago, so I'm trying to remember everything exactly. But I just attach them with some piping gel, and then I'm cutting off the excess because I just want it to be backed with the fondant. I'm sorry, I'm lying to you. The topper that I made with the brick wall is the gum paste. This is just fondant behind these because this is going to actually attach to the topper. The boom box was on gum paste though. So once I have those attached, I just put them in a plastic bag so that they don't dry out too fast until I was ready to use them. That is for the other one, obviously. But for the boombox, I did put it on a toothpick because I wasn't sure where I was going to put it. I wanted to make sure it had some support, stability, something to attach to the cake if I needed it to be there. That can be removed if I don't need it. And that I put to the side on one of my foam mats to dry faster because I knew that it needed to have rigidity. So really, technically, do those the day before so that they're nice and ready for you. Now I'm making this is gum paste topper, the brick wall topper. I just used a brick texture mat to add that texture to it, and I just colored my fondant this brick kind of orangey, tannish brick color because I was going to add all kinds of color to it. This is just the base color. And I attached that with some piping gel as well on top of there. And I just used my Dresden tool to, my tongue got stuck there, my Dresden tool to emphasize the line so it didn't look like it was just a piece of art sitting on top of it. I wanted it to look like it was spray painted onto the wall. Now this is another topper. They wanted a shirt that said "Too Legit to Quit." So I just hand painted it. I did cut it out with, it's a baby onesie cookie cutter, and I just adapted it to the shape of a t-shirt. I just cut off the rounded edges, and I'm just using luster dust and gold luster dust and Everclear to hand paint on the "Too Legit to Quit." Now I am not good at hand painting by any means, but I wasn't too worried about it because I knew that with the graffiti and all that, it's not going to be neat. You know what I'm saying? I mean, graffiti can be really, really cool, but it didn't have to be as clean as some other designs. And as you're watching me put the buttercream on the cake, I'm going to explain that I used airbrush color, white airbrush color, all over the top of the surface of that brick. And I'm going to do the same thing with the rest of the cake. And then once I got the white on there, I used Everclear on a paper towel, I think I used, and washed off the top so that you just get like a whitewashing effect on it. Now this is just fondant without Tylose, colored the same as the other brick wall. I just roll it out to about 1/4 inch thickness, and then I used my brick texture mat again, and I measured the size of the cake, the circumference and the height, and I cut out the piece about 1 inch longer and wider than I needed it. And then I'm just flipping it upside down because that makes it easier for me to attach it to the cake. There's some shortening on that piece of acetate. I wash and reuse that piece of acetate all the time. And that just helps me lift it up onto the cake so that I'm not warping the brick pattern. You can let it sit for a good maybe half an hour before you lift it onto the cake also. That helps. I didn't really have time to let it sit that long since this was for an order, and we do multiple orders a week at the bakery. So I definitely used the acetate sheet in these cases to help me get my fondant transferred without messing it up. And that was upside down, and I tipped it back side up. And I think I missed explaining that I just colored or frosted the top with the black buttercream. Didn't need to do the rest of the cake because it was going to be covered with that fondant. And now I'm doing the same technique. I wiped on or brushed on the white airbrush coloring. And then I'm using my paper towel that has some Everclear on it to remove the excess. I didn't mind if some of it was over the top of it, but I basically want it to show the cracks or the cracks, the indentations between the bricks so that you can tell that it is a brick. And then I'm going back in and I added that blue back around my, the graffiti. And then I'm using other colors to add some depth to it. Some of like the brick red and a little bit of brown just to kind of dirty it up a little bit. And then I did a little on the back also because you're going to see the back. I didn't do the texturizing on the back, but I did do some of the color. Now I'm using my clay extruder with this attachment. It's like a clover, a 3-leaf clover kind of attachment. And that's an easy way to get your rope. You just twist it opposite directions to get kind of that rope. Because we're going for chains, like gold chains, wrappers, gold chains. You know what I'm saying? I had done that on the t-shirt also. I just didn't explain that. But I had a mold that had a very small rope design on it. And that's what I used on the looping part of the cake also. It's around the neck of the shirt and then on the looped part, because those chains are kind of interlocked and wrapping around each other around the top. And now I'm just using we just have some music note cutters and just with some black fondant, and I just cut those out. And here I'm adding, dry brushing on some more of those dry petal dust. I have that little palette. I think that palette is actually attached in my favorites list in the video description. I really love these because you don't have to buy individual colors. You just get a whole palette and you have them on hand whenever you need them, and they last forever. And my paint was still, the white food coloring, I guess I should call it, was still a little bit wet. Again, didn't have time to let it dry completely. It would work better if you had time to let it dry completely. But I still got the effect I was going for. And I know you can't really see what I'm doing here, but I will turn it around. I was trying to add some more graffiti on there. And just kind of like some spray, just some spray paint. Kind of like they got a little messy or that it had been painted over, you know. Kind of like just an urban brick wall, really was what I was going for. Because, you know, you got a round cake. If you're going to do some of the painting on the front with some words, and you don't want to do it all the way around, you kind of need to tie it in together. So I just kind of did those splotches of color. And I tried to do like a Pac-Man. I can't remember what else I did. Mainly the Pac-Man. But then I added the music notes. Because I knew I was going to paint here. That's why I didn't do more. I'm just hand painting the Too Legit to Quit on there also. And since the cake was a little bit damp, the paint did want to drip down a little bit. But that's okay because to me that makes it look a little bit more organic. Like somebody had done it quick and then they had to run, you know? So I wasn't too worried about it. But yeah, painting is not, letters, not my best attribute when it comes to cakes. Not at all. But in this design, I think it was just fine. And now I'm doing the method, another cake decorator on YouTube. She's got Little Cherry Cake Company. She does this toilet paper or toilet bowl method on getting your fondant on your board. Go watch her. she's got some really interesting videos too. But that's where I got this idea. There's just a little bit of shortening on the board, and then you roll out your fondant in a U shape, like a toilet seat shape, and you roll it out flat. And then you're not having to wrap it around the cake, and it's not going to tear, and it's not going to like pleat up on you. So that's a good little hint, a little helpful hint. And then I just cut off the excess. Now I'm just using some more of the gold paint, the gold luster dust with the Everclear. You can use vodka, that works too. I just find with the vodka I end up having to paint 2 layers, where with the Everclear usually I can get away with 1 layer. You want to get the paint to a consistency that's paintable, but not so thin that you have streaks, and not so thick that it's clumping up on you. As it sits and oxidizes, though, as you're using it, it will thicken up a little bit. So just add a little bit more Everclear or vodka as you go when it gets a little bit too thick to work with. But I just love how this kind of finishes it off. And then make sure that you're getting underneath that rope, that chain, and then around on the top edge of the cake also. Just to make sure that it, you're not going to see it from all angles at once, but, just to make it more professional and finished, I would just go ahead and anywhere you see that black fondant, go ahead and paint that. Now I'm just brushing off the cornstarch off of those music notes is what I was doing there with just a little bit of water on the brush. Then painting the chain on the topper also. I just draped it over, and I used piping gel to get that to stick. You can use water too. Water sticks fondant to fondant, but I find when you're dealing with a gum paste topper that's already dried, some piping gel works a little bit better. It doesn't seem to want to accept that water back in it once it's dried as easily. Then I'm just using some ribbon around the board to make sure that that bottom is finished off and there is no more white showing. Now I know it's hard to see what I'm doing here. I kind of forgot the camera was right behind me, but I'm basically just adding the topper on. And I didn't really have to add anything to it because we have the toothpicks to hold it in place. If you want to, you can put a little bit of buttercream underneath it, or just a pipe, a thin line of it behind the topper if you want to. I didn't need it for this. And the boombox, I did add a little buttercream behind it to hold it into place. You can see me just putting it on there. I was going to try to see if it would just stick to the damp cake, but since it's kind of sticking off to the side a little bit, I decided a little bit of buttercream behind there wouldn't hurt anything, and that finished it all off. And I'm just using my brush to remove any excess that you might see. And here's our final Too Legit to Quit finished product. This was a fun one to do, and we do fun cakes quite often. We're in the middle of wedding season, so it's mainly wedding cakes right now, but we do throw a few of these in here and there. So I hope you learned something. I hope you got something from it, and we'll catch you on the next one.